Do-Hyen woke to the smell of herbs and the soft sound of humming. He was lying on something soft, covered with a thin blanket. His left arm was wrapped in bandages that smelled like flowers. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was made of woven branches and dried leaves. Soft light came through small gaps, creating patterns of gold and shadow. He was inside some kind of hut or small house. A woman sat beside him, grinding herbs in a stone bowl. Her skin was the same silver blue he had seen before, and the glowing patterns on her face pulsed gently as she worked. Her hair was long and white, falling past her shoulders like water. She noticed he was awake and stopped her work. Her eyes were large and violet, and they studied him with careful attention. "You are awake," she said. Her voice was soft and spoken accented but clear Galactic Common, the standard language of the Confederation. "That is good. I was worried you would die." Do-Hyen tried to sit up. The pain shot through his body. He fell back onto the bed with a groan. "Do not move," the woman said. "Your injuries are serious. You lost much blood." She picked up a cup from a nearby table and held it to his lips. "Drink this. It will help with the pain." The liquid was warm and tasted bitter, but Do-Hyen drank it. Almost immediately, he felt the pain begin to fade. "Thank you," he said. "Who are you?" "Where am I?" "My name is Yun Hana," she said. "I am the healer of this settlement. You are in the outer reaches of Vareth 7, in a village called Silverbrook." She paused, looking at him with curiosity. "What are you?" "I am human," Do-Hyen said. "My name is Kang Do-Hyen." I was exiled here." Hana nodded slowly. "Human. I have read about your species. You come from a small planet called Earth. Your people joined the Confederation recently." She tilted her head, studying him. "I did not expect the human to look so much like us." "We are similar in many ways," Do-Hyen agreed. He looked around the small room. "The people I saw last night, before I passed out, they were all women." "Is this entire settlement female?" Hana's expression changed. Something like fear passed over her face before she controlled it. "Yes," she said carefully. "Our entire region is female. That is a long story." Before she could say more, the door of the hut burst open. A tall woman strode inside, her silver blue skin darker than Hana's, her body muscular and strong. She wore armor made of some kind of shell material, and she carried a spear in one hand. Her eyes were hard and angry as she looked at Do-Hyen. "It is awake," she said, her voice harsh. "Good. Now it can answer questions." "Sora, please," Hana said, standing up. "He is injured. He needs rest." "He is a threat," the woman called Sora replied. "An alien male appearing in our village without warning? We need to know why he is here and what he wants." "I already told Hana," Do-Hyen said. "I was exiled. My ship crashed. I did not choose to come here." Sora turned her hard eyes on him. "Exiled for what crime?" "I was accused of sabotage, of killing 3 people." Do-Hyen met her gaze without looking away. "I did not do it, but nobody believed me. Why should we believe you now?" "You do not have to," Do-Hyen said. "But I am telling the truth." Sora stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned to Hana. "The council is meeting. They want to see him as soon as he can walk." After Sora left, Hana sat down with a heavy sigh. She looked older now, tired and worried. "You must understand," she said quietly. "Your presence here is very dangerous. Not because you are human, but because you are male. I notice there are no men here." "Why is that?" Hana was silent for a moment. Then she began to speak, her voice low and sad. "Centuries ago, a plague swept through our people. It was created by the Confederation, though they have never admitted it. They wanted to control our population, to keep us weak. The plague killed almost all of our males. Only a few survived." She looked down at her hands. After the plague, our society changed. Males became rare and precious. They are kept in the capital city now, under heavy protection. They never leave. They never see the outside world. Common women like us never see them. So males are basically prisoners, Duhayan said. They are protected, Hana said, but she did not sound convinced. The Confederation oversees everything. They say it is for our own good. They control who is born, how we live, where we can go. The outer settlements like ours are considered expendable. We exist at their pleasure. Duhayan understood now. It was the same everywhere in the Confederation. The strong controlled the weak. The rules were made by those in power, and everyone else had to suffer. If the Confederation finds out I am here, he said slowly, what will happen? Hana looked at him with fear in her violet eyes. They will destroy this settlement. They will relocate everyone, which means they will kill us and pretend we never existed. An unregistered male in the outer reaches is not allowed. It threatens their control. The council met that evening in a large building at the center of the village. Duhayan was helped there by Hana, as he was still too weak to walk alone. The council was made up of 7 elder women, their skin marked with more glowing patterns than the younger villagers. Sora stood at the side, her hand never far from her weapon. A young woman sat in the corner, watching everything with bright, curious eyes. She had a tablet in her hands and was taking notes. Hana whispered that her name was Choi Yeorim, the village scholar. The eldest council member spoke first. You say you are called Duhayan. You say you are human. You say you were exiled to this planet and crashed near our village by accident. Yes, Duhayan said. All of that is true. And what do you want from us? Duhayan thought carefully before answering. I want to survive. I want to find a way off this planet someday. Until then, I need shelter and time to heal. He paused. In return, I can offer my skills. I am an engineer. I can fix things, build things. I can be useful to your village. The council members looked at each other. Some seemed interested. Others looked doubtful. Sora stepped forward. This is too dangerous. If the Confederation discovers him, we are all dead. We should send him away. Let him survive on his own in the wilderness. He would die, Hana said. His injuries are too severe. That is not our problem. It is if we let an innocent person die when we could have helped. Hana's voice was firm. That is not who we are. That is not who I want us to be. Yeorim stood up from her corner. May I speak? The council nodded. I have studied humans, Yeorim said. Her voice was young but confident. They are known throughout the Confederation for their creativity and their ability to adapt. They have technologies and knowledge we do not have. If this human is truly an engineer, he could help us solve problems we've struggled with for years. And if he is discovered? Sora demanded. Then we are in danger, Yeorim admitted. But we are already in danger. We are always in danger. The Confederation does not care about us. At least this way, we might gain something. The council debated for a long time. Finally, they called for a vote. 4 voted to let Duhayan stay. 3 voted to send him away. The eldest council member looked at Duhayan with serious eyes. You may stay, human, but you must remain hidden. You must not leave the village. And if the Confederation comes, you must hide where they cannot find you. Duhayan bowed his head. I understand. Thank you. As Hana helped him back to her hut, Yeorim caught up with them. Her eyes were shining with excitement. I have so many questions, she said. About Earth, about humans, about everything. Will you talk to me sometime? Despite everything, Duhayan found himself smiling. Yes, he said. I will. Above them, in the orange sky, a ship passed overhead. Its lights blinked in the darkness like cold. Watching eyes. Someone had reported an unauthorized crash landing, and the Confederation never forgot. The prison transport ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Inside one of the small holding cells, Kang Du-Hyan sat with his back against the cold metal wall. His hands were bound with energy cuffs that glowed a soft blue. He had been sitting like this for 3 days now, ever since the trial ended. The trial had lasted only 2 hours. 2 hours to decide the rest of his life. The Confederation judges had not even looked at him when they read the verdict. Guilty of sabotage. Guilty of causing the deaths of 3 Velreni diplomats. The punishment was death, but Du-Hyan had not killed anyone. He was an engineer on the space station Harmony 7. His job was to maintain the reactor systems. When the explosion happened, he was sleeping in his quarters. He woke up to alarms and fire and screaming. By the time he reached the reactor room, the 3 Velrani were already dead. The Confederation needed someone to blame. Humans were still new to the galaxy. They had joined the interstellar community only 40 years ago, and most alien species still viewed them as primitive and untrustworthy. When the investigation found that a human had been working on the reactor the day before the explosion, the case was closed. Du-Hyan had tried to explain. He had shown them his maintenance logs. He had pointed out the design flaw in the Velreni cooling system. But nobody wanted to listen to a human. The Velreni wanted justice, and justice meant punishment. The cell door opened with a hiss. A tall reptilian guard stepped inside. He was a Serati, with green scales and yellow eyes that never blinked. His name was Officer Kreth, and he had been guarding Du-Hyan since the beginning of the journey. "Good news, human," Kreth said. His voice was cold and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Your sentence has been changed." Du-Hyan looked up. For a moment, hope flickered in his chest. Maybe someone had found evidence. Maybe someone had listened. "You are no longer going to be executed," Kreth continued. A smile spread across his scaled face, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Instead, you are being exiled to Everythi 7. The hope died instantly. Du-Hyan had heard of Everythi 7. Every prisoner in Confederation space had heard of it. It was a planet at the edge of known territory, used as a dumping ground for criminals and political prisoners. The Confederation sent people there and forgot about them. "That is worse than death," Du-Hyan said quietly. Kreth laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Yes, it probably is. But the Velreni wanted you to suffer longer than a quick execution would allow. Be grateful, human. You get to live a little more." The guard turned and left. The door closed behind him. Du-Hyan closed his eyes. He thought about Earth, about the small apartment in Seoul where he grew up. He thought about his mother, who had died 3 years ago, and his father, who had stopped speaking to him when he left Earth to work in space. He thought about all the choices that had led him to this moment. None of it mattered now. He was going to Everythi 7, and he was never coming back. The next morning, they transferred him to a smaller shuttle for the final part of the journey. The shuttle was old and poorly maintained. Du-Hyan noticed rust on the walls and cracks in the floor panels. The Confederation did not waste good equipment on exiles. There were no windows, but Du-Hyan felt the ship shake as it entered the atmosphere of Everythi 7. The shaking grew worse. Warning lights began to flash on the ceiling. What is happening? Du-Hyan shouted. The pilot, another Serati, did not answer. He was too busy fighting with the controls. The shuttle was falling too fast. Something was wrong with the engines. Du-Hyan's engineering instincts took over. He pulled against his restraints, trying to see the control panel. "The stabilizers," he yelled. "You need to adjust the stabilizers. They are not balanced for atmospheric entry." The pilot ignored him. The shuttle continued to fall. "Listen to me," Du-Hyan shouted. "I am an engineer. I can help." Finally, the pilot looked back at him. Fear was visible in his yellow eyes. "Then help?" he said. The pilot pressed a button, and Du-Hyan's restraints released. He stumbled forward to the control panel. His fingers moved quickly over the buttons and switches. The shuttle systems were different from what he knew, but the basic principles were the same. He rerouted power from the weapon systems to the stabilizers. He adjusted the angle of descent. The shaking lessened. For a moment, it seemed like they might survive. Then something exploded in the back of the shuttle. Fire and smoke filled the small cabin. The pilot screamed and fell forward onto the controls. The shuttle spun out of control. Du-Hyan grabbed the emergency lever and pulled. The cockpit section separated from the rest of the shuttle just before the main explosion. He was thrown forward as the escape pod hit the ground hard. When Du-Hyan opened his eyes, he was lying in purple grass. Above him, the sky was a strange orange color. 2 suns were setting on the horizon, one larger than the other. His whole body hurt, and his left arm was bleeding badly. He sat up slowly and looked around. The escape pod was a burning wreck a few hundred meters away. There was no sign of the pilot. The forest around him was unlike anything he had seen before. The trees had silver bark and violet leaves. Strange flowers glowed softly in the fading light. Du-Hyan checked his pockets. He still had his basic survival kit, a small tool set, and a water bottle. It was not much, but it was something. He stood up on shaking legs. In the distance, through the strange trees, he could see lights. It looked like a settlement of some kind. Where there were lights, there were people. Where there were people, there might be help. He started walking toward the lights. Every step was painful. The bleeding from his arm was getting worse. But he kept moving. That was what humans did. They kept moving forward, no matter what. The settlement was farther than it looked. By the time Du-Hyan reached the edge of it, the 2 suns had completely set. The only light came from the glowing flowers and the buildings ahead. His vision was getting blurry. He had lost too much blood. He stumbled through a gate and fell to his knees in what looked like a village square. He heard voices around him, speaking in a language he did not understand. He looked up and saw figures surrounding him. They were tall and humanoid, with silver blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the low light. Patterns on their skin glowed softly, like living tattoos. They were all looking at him with expressions he could not read. Some looked afraid. Some looked curious. Some looked at him like he was something they had never seen before, because he was. As his consciousness faded, Du-Hyan realized something strange. Every face he could see, every figure standing around him, was female. There were no men anywhere. Then darkness took him, and he knew nothing more. 3 weeks passed. Du-Hyan lived in a small underground shelter that the villagers had dug beneath Hana's hut. It was cramped and dark, but it was safe. He spent most of his days alone, with only occasional visits from Hana, and Io-Rim. Hana came to check his wounds and bring him food. She was quiet and professional, but Du-Hyan could tell she was starting to trust him. She no longer looked at him with fear. Sometimes she even smiled. Io-Rim came with her tablet and endless questions. She wanted to know everything about humans. How did they breathe? What did they eat? How did their families work? Did they really come from a planet with only one sun? Her curiosity was endless, and Du-Hyan found himself enjoying their conversations, but the days were long and lonely. Du-Hyan was not used to doing nothing. On the space station, he had always been working, always fixing something or building something. Here, he could only sit and wait. One evening, Hana came down to the shelter with a worried expression on her face. "Something is wrong," she said. "The water purification system is failing. Our engineers have tried to fix it, but they do not understand the technology. It is old Confederation equipment from before the plague. How long before it stops working completely?" Du-Hyan asked. "A few days, maybe less. Without clean water, we cannot stay here." The council is already talking about abandoning the village and moving deeper into the wilderness. Du-Hyan stood up. Let me look at it. Hana shook her head. It is too dangerous. The purification station is in the open. If anyone sees you, if the system fails, the village dies, Du-Hyan said. Let me help, please. Hana was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. They went at night when most of the village was asleep. Hana led Du-Hyan through dark streets to a small building near the river. Inside, an old machine hummed and clicked. Warning lights flashed red across its surface. Du-Hyan examined the machine carefully. It was Confederation technology, but very old. Many parts were worn out or damaged. Some had been repaired badly with the wrong materials. This is not going to be easy, he said. But I think I can fix it. I will need parts. What kind of parts? Anything metal. Old tools, broken machines, anything you can find. I also need wiring and power cells. He paused, thinking. The escape pod from my crash. Is it still there? Yes. Sora sent hunters to investigate it, but they did not take anything. Good. There are parts there I can use. For the next 3 days, Du-Hyan worked on the purification system. Yurim helped him salvage parts from the crashed escape pod. Hana brought him tools and food. Even some of the village hunters, sent by Sora to watch him, ended up helping carry heavy equipment. It was hard work. Du-Hyan had to rebuild entire sections of the machine using salvaged parts. He had to create new circuits from scratch. He worked through the nights, sleeping only a few hours at a time. On the 3rd day, he finished. The machine hummed to life with a sound cleaner and stronger than before. The warning lights turned from red to green. Water began flowing through the system, cleaner and faster than it had in years. Hana tested the water. Her eyes went wide. This is better than it has ever been. How did you do this? I did not just fix it, Du-Hyan said, exhausted but proud. I improved it. Your old system was only working at half efficiency. The Confederation gave you broken technology on purpose. They wanted you to struggle. Word of what Du-Hyan had done spread quickly through the village. Despite efforts to keep his presence secret, more and more people began to learn about the human who had saved their water supply. An elderly woman named Im Chai-won was the first to visit him openly. She came to the underground shelter one morning, moving slowly on old legs, and sat down in front of Du-Hyan with a small bowl of food. I brought you breakfast, she said simply. You look too thin. Thank you, Du-Hyan said, surprised. You are not afraid of me? Chai-won laughed softly. I am too old to be afraid. I have lived through the plague, through the Confederation's cruelty, through more hard years than I can count. A human engineer does not scare me. She watched him eat for a moment, then spoke again. You remind me of my brother. He was curious like you, always taking things apart, always trying to understand how they worked. He died in the plague when I was young. I am sorry, Du-Hyan said. It was a long time ago. Chai-won smiled sadly. But seeing you work on that machine, the way your hands moved, the way you concentrated, it brought back memories. Good memories. From then on, Chai-won visited Du-Hyan every day. She brought him food and stories about the village's history. She told him about the time before the plague, when males and females lived together, when families were whole. She told him about the dark years after, when hope seemed lost. Other villagers began visiting too. At first, they came just to look at him, curious about the strange alien. But soon they started asking questions. Could he fix their broken tools? Could he improve their farming equipment? Could he explain how their old machines worked? Du-Hyan helped everyone who asked. He fixed cooking devices and repaired water pumps. He showed the villagers how to maintain their equipment so it would last longer. He taught Eorem basic engineering principles, which she wrote down carefully in her tablet. Even Shin Junbai, a young hunter who had been assigned to guard Du-Hyan, began to change her mind about him. At first, she had watched him with cold, suspicious eyes. She spoke to him only in short, harsh sentences. But one day, she brought him a broken bow. "It was my mother's," she said, her voice tight. "The string mechanism is damaged. Our craftswoman cannot fix it." Du-Hyan examined the bow. It was a beautiful weapon, made of some kind of silver wood. The mechanical system that helped draw the string was complex but elegant. "I can fix this," he said, "but it will take time." Yunbai nodded and left without another word. Du-Hyan worked on the bow for 2 days. When he finished, he had not only fixed the mechanism but improved it. The bow could now draw faster and shoot farther than before. When he gave it back to Yunbai, she tested it in silence. Arrow after arrow flew straight and true, hitting targets at distances she had never reached before. When she was done, she stood still for a long moment. Then she turned to Du-Hyan. Her eyes were wet. "Thank you," she said. It was the first kind word she had ever spoken to him. That night, Hana and Du-Hyan sat outside the shelter, looking up at the orange sky. 2 moons hung above them, one large and silver, one small and red. "You are changing things here," Hana said quietly. "The village feels different. People are talking about possibilities instead of just survival. Is that bad?" Du-Hyan asked. "I do not know. Change can be dangerous." She paused. "But it can also be good. We have been surviving for so long that we forgot how to live." Du-Hyan understood. On Earth, humans had faced extinction many times. Ice ages, wars, plagues. Each time, they had survived. But survival alone was not enough. People needed hope. They needed to believe that tomorrow could be better than today. "On Earth," he said, "we have a saying. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. It means that no matter how many times you fail, you keep trying." Hana smiled. "We have a similar saying here. The flower that grows through stone is the most beautiful." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Hana spoke again, her voice serious. "The Confederation ship passed over again yesterday. Sora thinks they are searching for something. For you, maybe." Du-Hyan felt cold fear in his stomach. "What should we do?" "I do not know," Hana admitted. "But whatever happens, you are part of this village now. We will not abandon you." She reached out and touched his hand. Her silver blue skin was cool against his warmth. "You have given us something we had lost," she said. "Hope, and for that we will fight." 3 days later, a hunting party returned with terrible news. A Confederation patrol had been spotted. They were coming to the village for an inspection, and they would be here in 3 days. The village was in chaos. People ran through the streets, talking in panicked voices. Some were already packing their belongings, ready to flee into the wilderness. Others stood frozen, too afraid to move. The council called an emergency meeting. Every adult in the village crowded into the meeting hall, their faces pale with fear. Du-Hyan stayed hidden in a corner, wrapped in a dark cloak that Hana had given him. The eldest council member raised her hand for silence. "We have 3 days before the Confederation inspectors arrive. They are coming for a population assessment. They will scan every living being in the settlement. Then we must send the human away," someone shouted. "He brings death to us all. If we send him into the wilderness, he will die," Hana said. "Is that who we want to be? People who sacrifice the innocent to save ourselves. Better one death than all of us." Another voice called Sora stepped forward. Her face was grim, but her eyes were thoughtful. "There may be another option. The caves beyond the valley. They are deep enough to block scanning equipment. We could hide him there. And if they search the caves, Rim asked. The inspectors are not stupid. They know about the crash. They will look everywhere. The argument continued for hours. Hide him, send him away, give him to the Confederation, and beg for mercy. Each suggestion was shot down. There seemed to be no good answer. Finally, Duhayan stood up. The room went silent as everyone turned to look at him. May I speak? He asked. The eldest council member hesitated, then nodded. Duhayan walked to the center of the room. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. On Earth, my people learned something important a long time ago. When you face an enemy stronger than you, direct fighting is suicide. But every system, no matter how powerful, has weaknesses. The Confederation is a bureaucracy. It runs on rules and procedures, and rules can be used against the people who made them. What do you mean? Sora asked. Duhayan looked at Rim. You are the scholar here. You have access to Confederation records and laws, right? Rim nodded, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. Yes, what do you need? I need you to find the rules about cultural observances. Specifically, the rules about what happens when inspectors encounter a protected cultural practice. Rim's fingers flew across her tablet. After a few minutes, she looked up with an excited expression. I found it. The Cultural Preservation Act, Section 47. Confederation inspectors cannot interrupt or interfere with sacred cultural observances without explicit invitation from the community. If they do, it creates a diplomatic incident and automatic review of their conduct. Perfect, Duhayan said. Now, tell me about your old traditions. Before the plague, what ceremonies did your people have? The elder council members looked at each other. Chai-Wan spoke up, her voice soft with memory. There was the blessing of new life, a fertility ceremony. It was held every spring to ensure healthy births and strong families. But we have not performed it in generations. It requires a male to lead the ritual. Duhayan smiled. And now you have one. The room erupted in shocked voices. Some people looked horrified. Others looked confused. Sora pushed through the crowd to stand in front of Duhayan. You want to reveal yourself to the Confederation? She demanded. Are you insane? Think about it, Duhayan said. Right now, I am a hidden problem. If they find me hiding, they can destroy this village and claim you were harboring a criminal. But if I am standing in the open, performing a sacred ritual, they cannot touch me without breaking their own laws. It is a gamble, Anna said slowly. If it works, we are safe. If it fails, I am the only one who dies, Duhayan said. I will take full responsibility. I will say I forced you to hide me. I will say you knew nothing about the ritual being a trick. You would sacrifice yourself for us? Chai-Wan asked quietly. Duhayan looked around the room at the faces watching him. Some of these people had been kind to him. Some had been cruel. But all of them were afraid, just trying to survive in a universe that did not care about them. You gave me shelter when you did not have to, he said. You healed me when you could have let me die. This is my chance to pay that debt. Sora stared at him for a long moment. Something changed in her expression. The hardness softened, just a little. You are either very brave or very stupid, she said. I am not sure which. On Earth, we call that being human, Duhayan replied. The council voted. This time, it was unanimous. They would revive the blessing of new life. Duhayan would lead it. And they would face the Confederation together. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. The village transformed. Ancient ceremonial grounds were cleared and cleaned. Old decorations were brought out of storage. The elder women taught the younger ones songs and dances that had not been performed in 100 years. Rim worked with Duhayan to prepare him for his role. She showed him the words he needed to speak, the gestures he needed to make. The ritual was complex, but Du Haiyan had always been good at learning new things. Ha-Na made him ceremonial robes from silver cloth. They were beautiful, covered in glowing patterns that matched the markings on Velothi's skin. When Du Haiyan put them on, he almost looked like he belonged. The night before the inspection, Sora came to see him alone. "I need to apologize," she said. "When you first arrived, I wanted you gone. I saw you as a threat, a problem to be removed." "You were protecting your people," Du Haiyan said. "I understand. No, it was more than that." Sora looked away. "I was afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of hope. We have survived for so long by keeping our heads down, by not attracting attention. The idea of standing up, of fighting back, it terrified me." She turned back to face him. "But you were right. Survival is not enough. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days, when our people were proud and strong. I had forgotten those stories. You helped me remember." The Du Haiyan put his hand on her shoulder. "Tomorrow, no matter what happens, you will show the Confederation that the Velothi are still proud. That alone is a victory." Sora nodded. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. "You know, for an alien, you are not so bad. High praise from someone who wanted to throw me into the wilderness." They both laughed. It felt good to laugh. The morning of the inspection arrived. The Confederation ship descended from the sky, sleek and silver and cold. It landed at the edge of the village, and a group of inspectors marched out. Their leader was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His name was Overseer Thalrix, and his expression was one of bored contempt. Behind him walked 4 armed guards, their weapons ready. The village appeared empty. The streets were silent. Then, from the ceremonial grounds, the sound of singing began. Thalrix stopped. "What is that noise?" He marched toward the sound, his guards following. They rounded a corner and stopped in shock. The entire village was gathered in the ceremonial grounds. The women were dressed in traditional clothes, their skin patterns glowing brightly. They were singing an ancient song, their voices rising and falling in beautiful harmony. And in the center of them all stood Du Haiyan. He wore the silver robes Hana had made for him. He held a ceremonial staff in his hands. He was singing too, his human voice joining the alien melody. Thalrix's eyes went wide. What is the meaning of this? Who is that male? He is not registered. The eldest council members stepped forward. "We are performing the blessing of new life, Overseer, a sacred cultural practice of our people. Under the Cultural Preservation Act, Section 47, you cannot interrupt us without our explicit invitation." "This is ridiculous," Thalrix snarled. "That is not even a Velothi. It is a human." "The ritual requires a male," Hana said calmly. "We have not had one in generations. When this man came to us, we recognized it as a sign. The spirits of our ancestors sent him to help us revive our sacred traditions." Thalrix looked like he wanted to scream. He pulled out a communication device and began speaking rapidly in a language Du Haiyan did not understand. The villagers kept singing. Du Haiyan kept singing with them. His heart was pounding so hard, he thought it might break out of his chest. But he did not let his fear show. After several minutes, Thalrix lowered his device. His face was twisted with fury. "This is not over," he said through clenched teeth. "I will report this to my superiors. There will be consequences." "That is your right," the elder said. "We welcome any review of our cultural practices. We have nothing to hide." Thalrix turned and marched back toward his ship. His guards followed, casting confused looks over their shoulders. The ship rose into the sky and disappeared into the clouds. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Shy One let out a shaky laugh. "It worked," she said. "I cannot believe it worked. The village erupted in cheers. People hugged each other, crying and laughing at the same time. Do-Hyeon was surrounded by grateful hands, touching his arms, his shoulders, his face. Hana pushed through the crowd to reach him. Her eyes were shining with tears. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." Do-Hyeon smiled wearily. "We did it together." Sora appeared beside them. For the first time since Do-Hyeon had met her, she was smiling. "You were right," she said. "Rules can be weapons. I will remember that." But even as the celebration continued, Do-Hyeon knew this was not the end. Thalrix would report what happened. The Confederation would investigate. The danger was not gone, only delayed. The weeks after the confrontation were strange and wonderful. The Confederation did not return. Every day that passed without a ship in the sky felt like a small miracle. The villagers began to believe that maybe, just maybe, they had actually won. Do-Hyeon was no longer hidden. He walked freely through the village, his human face now familiar to everyone. Children followed him around, asking questions about Earth and humans and the strange things he could build. Old women brought him food and patted his cheek. Young hunters asked him to improve their weapons. He was no longer a prisoner or a guest. He was becoming part of the community. News of what happened in Silverbrook spread to other settlements in the outer reaches. Stories traveled through traders and hunters, growing bigger with each telling. The human who stood against the Confederation. The village that revived ancient traditions. The ritual that stopped the inspectors in their tracks. One morning, a delegation arrived from a settlement called Stoner River, 3 days' travel to the north. Their leader was a tall woman with more glowing patterns on her skin than Do-Hyeon had ever seen. She had come to meet the human and learn how they could protect their own village. "The Confederation has been tightening its grip on us," she said. "More inspections, more restrictions. We heard what you did here. We want to know if it can work for us too." Do-Hyeon sat with the delegation and explained everything. The Cultural Preservation Act, the power of rules and procedures, the importance of standing together instead of hiding alone. "The Confederation is powerful," he said, "but they are also slow and bureaucratic. They have rules they must follow, even if they hate those rules. If you know the rules better than they do, you can use them as shields." Yeorim helped translate Do-Hyeon's ideas into documents that other settlements could use. She created guides for identifying legal protections, for reviving abandoned traditions, for navigating Confederation procedures. Soon, she was sending these documents to settlements across the region. More delegations came. From Cloud Peak, from Moon Hollow, from a dozen other villages Do-Hyeon had never heard of. They came to meet him, to learn from him, to see for themselves the human who had changed everything. The council offered Do-Hyeon official citizenship, the first ever granted to an outsider. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. The eldest council member placed a small stone pendant around his neck, carved with the symbol of Silverbrook. "You came to us as a stranger," she said. "You stayed as a friend. Now you are family." Do-Hyeon felt tears in his eyes. He'd been alone for so long, falsely accused, exiled, forgotten. He had expected to die on this planet, unmourned and unmissed. Instead, he had found something he never expected. He had found a home, but not everyone was happy about the changes. One evening, Sora came to Do-Hyeon with a worried expression. "There is a problem," she said. "Some of the settlements that visited us have started talking about independence, about breaking away from Confederation control completely. Is that not what you want?" Do-Hyeon asked. "It is not that simple. The Confederation has ships, weapons, technology we cannot match. If we rebel openly, they will crush us." Do-Hyeon nodded. He had been thinking about this too. Direct rebellion would fail, he agreed. But that is not the only option. On Earth, we have many stories of people fighting against stronger powers. The secret is not to attack strength. It is to make yourself too expensive to destroy. What do you mean? Right now, the Confederation sees the outer reaches as a problem to be managed. Expendable people in an unimportant place. But what if that changed? What if the settlements became valuable? What if destroying them would cost more than leaving them alone? So Ra's eyes narrowed. How would we do that? By becoming connected. By building relationships with other species, other planets. By making friends in places the Confederation cannot ignore. Du-Hyan smiled. Humans are good at making friends. It is one of our talents. We are not the strongest or the smartest, but we know how to build bridges. Over the next few months, Du-Hyan worked on a plan. He used the communication equipment he had salvaged from his crashed shuttle to send messages to human colonies and ships in nearby systems. He told them about Vareth 7, about the Everythi, about the injustice being done in the outer reaches. Some messages went unanswered, but some did not. A human trade ship arrived 3 months later. Its captain was a woman named Park Ji-yeon, tough and practical, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had received Du-Hyan's message and decided to see the situation for herself. You have caused quite a stir, Ji-yeon told him. The human colonies are talking about you. The Confederation is furious, but cannot figure out how to respond. Will you help us? Du-Hyan asked. G-Y-E-O-N looked around the village. She watched the Everythi women going about their daily lives. She saw the children playing, the hunters practicing, the elders teaching. Yes, she said finally. We will help. Not because we can defeat the Confederation, but because this is the kind of fight worth fighting. Humans have been pushed around in this galaxy since we arrived. It is time we pushed back. The trade ship became the first of many. Human merchants began visiting Everythi settlements, trading goods and knowledge. Human engineers helped improve village technology. Human doctors shared medical techniques. And slowly, the outer reaches began to change. The Confederation noticed. Overseer Thalrix returned several times, always with new complaints and new threats. But each time, the settlements stood together. They cited laws and regulations. They demanded formal reviews and proper procedures. They made every attempt at control expensive and difficult. Eventually, the Confederation stopped coming as often. The outer reaches were too much trouble for too little gain. There were easier targets elsewhere. 1 year after Du-Hyan's arrival, Silverbrook held a celebration. It was the anniversary of the first blessing of new life, the ritual that had started everything. The entire village gathered in the ceremonial grounds, along with visitors from settlements across the region. Du-Hyan stood in the center, wearing the silver robes that Hana had made for him. But this time, he was not alone. Hana stood beside him, her hand in his. Over the past year, their friendship had grown into something deeper. Something neither of them had expected but both had welcomed. 1 year ago, the eldest council member announced, a stranger fell from the sky. We were afraid of him. We wanted to send him away. But he showed us another path. He showed us that even the weak can stand against the strong if they stand together. The crowd cheered. Du-Hyan felt Hana squeeze his hand. After the ceremony, they walked to the edge of the village and looked up at the stars. 2 moons hung in the sky, silver and red. The night was warm and quiet. Do you miss Earth? Hana asked. It was a question she had asked before, but Du-Hyan's answer had changed over time. I miss parts of it, he said honestly. The mountains where I grew up. The food my mother used to make. But Earth was never really home to me. I was always looking for something more. He turned to face her. The glowing patterns on her silver blue skin pulsed softly in the darkness. I found it here, he said. With you. With all of you. Hana smiled. On Earth, what do you call someone who has no family but finds one? Found family? Duhayan said. Or chosen family. People who become your relatives not by blood, but by choice. We have a similar word, Hana said. Chosen kin. It means someone who was not born to your hearth, but belongs there anyway. She reached up and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his warm skin. You are our chosen kin, Kang Duhayan. This is your home now. For as long as you want it. Duhayan pulled her close. Behind them, the lights of the village glowed in the darkness. Children laughed. Music played. Life continued. He had come to this planet as a prisoner, an exile, a dead man walking. He had expected nothing but suffering and death. Instead, he had found purpose. He had found family. He had found love. The stars above them were countless, cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Confederation still watched. Somewhere out there, danger still waited. The future was uncertain, full of challenges they could not yet imagine. But for now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Duhayan looked at Hana, at the village, at the life he had built from nothing. I am home, he said. And for the first time in his life, he truly meant it.